Hello, everyone. This is Jay from This, That, and Everything, and you're listening to the BS Podcast Network.
Never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy. He can't feel the neck. See?
You wanted me. Here I am.
I wanted to see what you'd do. And you didn't disappoint. You let 5 people die. Then you let Dent take your place. Even to a guy like me, that's cold.
Where's Dent?
Those mob fools want you gone so they can get back to the way things were. But I know the truth. There's no going back. You've changed things. Forever.
Then why do you want to kill me?
I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you? Go back to ripping off mob dealers? No. No, you complete me.
You're garbage. You kills for money.
Don't talk like one of them. You're not. Even if you'd like to be. To them, you're just a freak. Like me. They need you right now. When they don't, they'll cast you out. Like a leper. You see, their morals, their code. It's a bad joke. Dropped at the first sign of trouble. They're only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve.
Where's Dent?
You have all these rules, and you think they'll save you.
Who's in control? I have one rule.
Oh, then that's the rule you'll have to break to know the truth.
Which is?
The only sensible way to live in this world is without rules. And tonight, you're gonna break your one rule. What are you?
I'm Batman.
Who are you?
My name is Bond.
I'm
Batman. Name's Bond. James Bond. I'm Batman. Bond. James Bond. I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
This is the Batman vs. James Bond show. The show covering everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. And this is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. It is great to be back, and you know why? Because April is here, the warm weather is finally, well, it's slowly starting to get better. It really is. I mean, actually, it's getting ready to rain right about now, but besides the weather, you know, it is just... I am ready for the warm weather, but overall, I'm excited because there's lots to talk about tonight. Excuse me. I'm feeling the summer movie season because we got a few summer movies that are coming out. There's anniversaries that are approaching. We just wrapped up something really, really big for the show, and I have a surprise to talk about tonight. I will tease till the end of the show. But I hope everybody had a fantastic week. Mine was excellent. I was out and about this weekend with my wife, and I was rocking my brand new Royal Filmwear Y3 Haiti Quantum of Solace jacket, just like Daniel Craig wore in the Bond film Quantum of Solace. Head over to Royal Filmwear. It's an amazing jacket. I know if you're a James Bond fan of James Bond anyway, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. This is a replica of the jacket that he wore when he was in the Haiti scenes, and let me tell you, it's a really, really great jacket, and I really enjoy it. And of course, for those of you that have been following this show, you know that I like to kind of dress up as certain characters, one with a cow and a cape, and actually I'm getting ready to dress up like him for the first time this year, for 2017. That is, I'm heading up to Philly Comic-Con, so if anybody's in Philly this Saturday, April 8th, let me know, and we can talk some Batman and Bond. I love to talk Batman and Bond anytime. So before we jump into things, just a reminder, BatmanVSBond.com. That's right. You know the name. Go there for all the latest shows and more content. You can also find the show on the BS Podcast Network. That's bspodcastnetwork.com. Find my show and a whole bunch of other great shows on there. And Batman vs. Bond t-shirts are now available for gals and guys. They're just $20.49. All you have to do is go to bspodcastnetwork.com, click on the shop tab, proceeds benefit the Wayne Foundation's R&D department and the Q Branch Labs. Now let's get down to business. So I would say it's one of those interesting weeks with news. I would say that there's, just coming off last week with such a big thing like the Justice League trailer, I would say, how can I top that? Well, I honestly can't top that, but there are some cool little scoops out there that we'll talk about, but let's get to it. Cinemacon 2017. So for those of you, like I said, that those listeners like James Bond fans or certain Batman fans out there, there's something called, this is the time of the year. That's why I'm getting even more amped up right now is there's something called Comic-Cons. And, if you haven't heard of a Comic-Con, shame on you. I'm just kidding. It's okay. But it's something that I always highly recommend people check out because I didn't get into it probably till I'd say about 4 years ago, give or take. And, I went to my first Comic-Con, and this will be a short story, don't worry. But I didn't know what to expect. I always thought that, no offense, but I always thought it was just like a little kind of a nerd convention for comics and, just kind of people to geek out. And that's exactly what it is. But there's more to it, though. Also, there's cosplay, which is probably one of my favorite things about going there. It's I dress up in my full Batman attire, my full Batman Begins costume. I love going around there and dressing up as the Bat, meeting Jokers, Banes, Harley Quinns. Sometimes there's Catwomen out there. Even if it's Marvel, Spider-Man, Iron Man, whomever, you just get some really cool. You get to have fun with people who are fans of some majority of the same thing as you are. There's some really interesting finds out there, such as, movies like DVD sets that you never say. Well, I mean, I recently bought the Batman Beyond DVD set, but, something like that, a little treasure like that could be out there. Collectibles, video games, obviously comics are the big thing. And what's really cool is the artists who draw the comics are out there and you actually get to meet them face to face. Most of the time, they'll actually sign it to you free of charge. And they're really down to earth, really nice people out there. And, everybody, I've never had a bad experience at a Comic-Con, knock on wood, and I don't ever expect to because that's the kind of fan base, that's the kind of people that you meet out there. And, like I said, I encourage everybody, if you have a Comic-Con in your area or you get to travel to a Comic-Con that's not too far away, definitely go make that trip. So, where I'm going with this is Cinemacon. This one actually takes place in Las Vegas, and this is actually, I guess it's gotten bigger, and I didn't know it was approaching so fast, or I guess I lost track of time, because Warner Brothers and DC actually had a big presentation out there. Now, as I mentioned just now, that Justice League, the second Justice League, I guess you could say, it's the first official trailer for Justice League. I mean, I count the teaser as a trailer, the footage from the previous Comic-Con at San Diego. This is kind of similar in the sense because just like San Diego Comic-Con last year, Ben Affleck was in attendance. Actually, the whole Justice League was there, minus Gal Gadot. She was home with her newborn baby. Congratulations, Gal Gadot, on her recently newborn baby. They all gathered in Las Vegas. So you had Ben Affleck, you had the director of Justice League, Batman v Superman, and Man of Steel, Zack Snyder was there. Jason Momoa, Henry Cavill, yes, Superman, spoiler, it will be in the Justice League, despite what people were saying about the posters. Ezra Miller, Flash, Ray Fisher, Cyborg, and Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins and Chris Pine. So this was obviously something, that's a big deal because it's not often, the Comic-Con conventions that you see the whole Justice League show up. So this was pretty big. Let's skip right away, minus the Wonder Woman because we're focusing, obviously, we care more about Batman. At the end of the presentation for Warner Brothers in DC, the cast of Justice League and the director Zack Snyder showed off an extended version of the new trailer that came out. And that's, real quick, that's what's really cool about these Comic-Con conventions, especially the big ones like San Diego, obviously Cinemacon, sometimes New York. You get to see footage, and I know people stand in lines for almost days in a way, and that's not an exaggeration at all. You have to pretty much book your room a year in advance, from what I understand. But the cool thing is you get to see the trailers, you get to see the actors and all kinds of things there. And that's something that the fans there at Cinemacon were treated to. And this is per the Hollywood Reporter. This is just a little bit of the description of the new footage in there. There's no spoilers, don't worry. Alfred, and this confirms actually my own question last week. I was like, well, is Jeremy Irons coming back? Well, indeed he is. So Alfred tells Bruce Wayne that his employer has been working like there is no tomorrow trying to assemble the team. Soon we're in a Wayne warehouse where he's working on some kind of giant vehicle. Bruce remarks that he spent $1 million on security for that building, to which Wonder Woman answers he got his money's worth because it took her almost a minute to disable it. He explains the vehicle he's working on is a troop carrier. It seemed reminiscent of something from the Batman v Superman Nightmare Dream sequence. Later in the footage, Batman and Barry Allen the Flash are standing on a roof out of costume, and they see the bat signal in the sky. Quoted, "Oh, awesome, it's the bat signal. That's your signal," Barry tells Bruce before apologizing for speaking too loudly about it. Quoted, "That means we have to go now. That's so cool." And I could just hear Ezra Miller. If you think back, if you've seen the Justice League trailer, then you know exactly what I'm talking about with how Ezra Miller's personality as the Flash is so evident in that. He's definitely going to be, I would say, more of the comedy relief in this. But let's talk about this footage for a minute. Obviously, Jeremy Irons is going to be back. If anything, I would say he's going to have a slight cameo. Once again, it says everything that we know is the difference between night and day. Pardon the pun, between Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and this Justice League. More humor. Things like, Bruce Wayne spending $1 million on security, and then Wonder Woman is easily able to disable it and so forth. The bat signal, I like knowing that, you see more interaction between Bruce Wayne and Barry Allen. It almost seems like Bruce Wayne's going to be taking Barry Allen under, pardon the pun again, his wing. Little things like that. I'm dying to see this footage because, of course, anything I can see with this, Batman related, I'm really excited about. I still stand by what I said about the footage or just the trailer for Justice League. I'm really excited about it. I really am. I'm hoping, fingers are crossed, toes are crossed, that this ends up being, really, really good. I really just want to have a fun experience. I don't really give a damn, honestly, about what the critics say. Of course, I'm the first one to probably go on Rotten Tomatoes because I want to see what the consensus is. And I know we've talked about that multiple times, well, Rotten Tomatoes sucks because they didn't give Batman v Superman a good rating. And, somehow Batman and Robin got a better score. I understand what you're saying there. I truly do. Rotten Tomatoes is what it is. It's a consensus of the critics' scores. But who says we have to listen to the critics? We can make our own opinion. And you do see a viewer score on there also. And let's face it, Batman v Superman did have mixed reviews. Okay, people, I know I keep what do they say, hammering a dead horse, however the phrase goes. But you know where I'm going with this is we all make our opinion. I have favorite Batman movies that some people will say, well, why did you like The Dark Knight Rises so much? I have my reasons why I like it so much. You might have your reason why you think that, a certain James Bond movie is, one of the greatest. We were just talking, I was online, and we were all talking about On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and we can all agree that George Lazenby wasn't that great of a Bond. And, we can say that Timothy Dalton, he was an excellent Bond and things like that. So we can always have our opinion with that. And, when Justice League comes out, I have a really good suspicion that this is one that's going to still, because of Zack Snyder, because certain fans hold a grudge against him, and I really have no idea. I don't know. It's going to be, I know how I'm making a really early prediction here, but I'll just go with it. I'd say it's probably going to get like a 57% on a Rotten Tomatoes. It's going to get, better than, it's not going to be any lower than Batman v Superman is, but it's just going to be like, okay, well, we've seen this, we've seen that before. It's just Avengers for, the DCEU. And there's a chance it could be, but it's different characters, it's a different director, it's a different type of story. So I'm gonna still remain hopeful with this. I think that come San Diego Comic-Con, I would imagine that we're probably going to see another trailer for this, possibly the final trailer, because remind you that the movie comes out in November, so there's still plenty of time. Now, Batman fans, this is another thing that this is where I really nerd out, because Batman fans, I know you understand where I'm coming with this, is that normally for a Batman movie, we're used to a May, usually a July release for Batman movies. We look at the Dark Knight trilogy, majority of them came out in either May or July. Batman Returns and Batman, they all came out around June. I would say all the Batman movies, aside from Batman v Superman came out in March, which I really found odd, because I don't know. I wish they would have pushed for a June release, because to me, it's something about, you hear the name Batman, you hear the name Superman, you think summer blockbuster. And obviously the thing about a summer blockbuster is it's not ceasing to exist anymore, but it's just that this companies such as Warner Brothers, DC, and the other guys, they seem to be kind of spreading it out. Now, November is one of those areas that just seems like, okay, well, it's uncharted territory, or just, that used to be the time when James Bond movies, since I can remember, for The World Is Not Enough in 1999, have been coming out since November, all the way up to recently Spectre in 2015. And I find it really ironic that a Batman movie, Batman or Justice League is a Batman movie, no matter how you look at it. I find it really interesting that it comes out in November. It's like, okay, well, that fills the void technically for James Bond in the meantime. But it still kind of worries me. I don't know. I guess I'm superstitious in a way. I'm not saying that a movie has to come out in July and makes it an excellent movie, but I'm just saying that, just my 2 cents anyway. But besides the point, though, I'm looking forward to Justice League, and I want to hear what you guys have to think. Tweet me at Batman vs. Bond, or email me at batmanvjamesbond@gmail.com. What do you think about Justice League? Are you still nervous? What do you think about the footage? Let me know. So let's move on here to something that I know that as a nerd, you know what? My wife says I'm not a nerd, and I find I'm, in a way, being a nerd is kind of cool now. And I'm kind of offended that she doesn't count me as a nerd, but I like to geek out over things. Besides the point, though, the nerds on one side are definitely going to be probably very pissed off about this. The nerds on the other side are probably going to be really ecstatic about this. And this is the news about a possible Batgirl movie. And yes, I know this is a Batman podcast, but Batgirl does fall into the universe of Batman. And what's possibly happening right now, and it's in final talks. Now, mind you, it's not confirmed. The director of the Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, Mr. Joss Whedon, is in final talks to write, direct, and produce a standalone Batgirl movie for Warner Brothers. And this is reported by Variety. No other news right now about this, aside from the fact that, he's possibly overseeing, or it's being overseen by John Berg and Jeff Johns from the DCEU. Wow, what do I think about this? Okay, well, we always talk about all right, and let me clarify this real quick if I haven't already, if you haven't picked up where I'm going with this. The other side, when I say, the nerds from the other side, I'm talking about obviously the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and us on the other side, the DCEU fans, the Batman fans. Wow, this is really interesting. And I was thinking about this before the show. It's like, okay, well, I did like the Avengers movies. I did. I still think I think the second Avengers was probably better. I think it was filmed better. The first Avengers, it was good, but I will say it felt more like a extended TV episode. I guess that's how he filmed it at the time. Kind of nerding out about that, but I like the villain of Ultron better than Loki. That's just me. But I did like everything. I liked something about Joss Whedon that really stands out, at least with those two movies, and the only two movies I've seen of his, and is that, he knows how to work with a large cast of characters. He really knows how to bring out personalities in characters. So to me, that's already, I'm really excited about that. Knowing that, a director who's obviously a fan of this kind of stuff. I know he's famous for doing the TV show Buffy. I know that a lot of fans are a fan of, what's it called? Serenity. It's a sci-fi, kind of a TV show. I think there was actually a movie about it also. Firefly, something like that. Anyway, besides the point though, let me focus on here. My ADD is kicking in. Anyway, I will say that let's look at the facts. Let's just say that Joss Whedon really will direct a Batgirl movie. It makes me, like I said, I'm excited about it, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, where's all this focus on Batman? And how does this fall into the DCEU? Because now all we're hearing is all these kind of like extended universe kind of movies. So you're having characters from the Batman universe, such as Batgirl, and then you have the Gotham City Sirens, which is Harley Quinn, Catwoman, and Poison Ivy, and then you have a Suicide Squad 2, and then you have a Nightwing movie in development, and I'm thinking, what's going on with the Batman? Why was it taking so long to get everything together with that? Is it because of the script? Is it because of what happened with Ben Affleck as the director, about him standing down from that? And like I said, of course, this is exciting news because, like I said, the Marvel fans are probably like, traitor! And whereas the DCU fans are like, well, I'm not a fan of Marvel, but hey, we got Joss Whedon. That's awesome. This is really awesome. I love that guy. And me, I'm like, okay, well, I did, I admittedly so. I really do like the Avengers movies. I do like some of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. I really do. I know that they follow that cookie cutter approach. And I think that if this guy is given creative freedom, that's something it feels like we have seen, but, it's something that, I think that he might have a better vision than, say, a Zack Snyder. I think he might have more experience with something like that. I think Joss Whedon can tell a better story. I think he can flesh out those characters, whereas Snyder focuses more on the visuals and then kind of leaves the story as the, kind of second and so forth. I honestly, I don't know. What I think about this. Like I said before the show, when I was talking online with some people, that people are excited about this. I know a lot of people are really excited about this Batgirl movie. I know that Stephen Dominguez from Science Faction Podcast, I think he was one of the first to send me the news about this. And when I told him, it's like, well, this, I guess, is Batman news, possibly, but it really is Batman news. The only thing I know with Batgirl the only thing I've really seen of Batgirl, well, technically, I don't want to count Batman and Robin because I know that is not a true interpretation of Batgirl. Yes, the character's name, played by Alicia Silverstone, was named Barbara, but she was the relative of Alfred. I know it probably pissed off a lot of fans there, but I think of Batgirl from Batman the Killing Joke, which I had a chance to see in movie theaters last year, the animated movie that is. I haven't read the comic yet. And what I saw in there, they had a pretty cool backstory with her in a way, to the point where they were saying, okay, and for those of you that haven't seen the Killing Joke, well, spoiler alert real quick, but I will say that the movie kicks off where you're seeing Batgirl already, Barbara Gordon already established, the daughter of Commissioner Gordon. She's already fighting along with Batman. She's kicking ass, and then she has a question whether she wants to do it anymore, and then she ends up putting up her cowl and cape, and then all of a sudden she's having dinner with her father, Commissioner Gordon, and guess who knocks on the door? Oh yeah, that guy. He likes to laugh a lot. That would be the Joker, and he shows up, and that's probably one of the famous scenes where he ends up shooting her and paralyzes her, and amongst other things, I've heard that he does other things to her. And she was actually found naked. All kinds of little things that, it's a really dark movie. And I understand why it was rated R, because, after that, the Joker ends up kidnapping Commissioner Gordon and tries to make him go insane, in the amusement park. And, Batman, tries to track down the Joker and so forth. And you see a backstory of the Joker also. This is kind of like an origin story of the Joker. So it's a whole bunch of things mixed up in there. What I would, and like I said, if we do get to see a Batgirl movie, if it ends up being a standalone, then so be it. That's okay. But I would like to see it mixed in with the DCU. And I know I'm one that says that I don't always care for the shared universe. It's just because I would like to see Ben Affleck's Batman in this and just fighting alongside a Batgirl and, having J.K. Simmons, even though we haven't had a chance to see him aside from a little clip from the Justice League trailer. But I can imagine him, just being in there. And I want a recreation of Batman the Killing Joke. I know we're not going to get that on screen probably because it's too dark. And we, with the DCEU, whenever they decide to go rated R with movies, the actual live action movies, then maybe we will get a Batman Killing Joke or retelling of that. But, that's the kind of Batgirl I'd like to see. I'd like to see, her already established fighting alongside Batman, and then you throw in the Joker, whether it's Jared Leto's Joker, if he decides to come back, or if Warner Brothers decides that they want him back. So, I would say this is good news because, if this is mixed in with the DCU, once again, we don't know yet. This could be just a one-off. And if it's a one-off, then maybe that might be best. I really don't know. But if you're doing something like this and you already have a cinematic universe established, then of course you want to have a Batman in there. You can't have Batgirl, I don't think, without Batman. Not that I can imagine anyway. So once again, let me know what you have to think. Batman versus Bond at Twitter. Send me your messages. Let me know what you think. All right. So this next story we'll say it's pending right about now. Now, for those of you that don't know the name Aaron Sorkin, let me throw out some movies here real quick that he has written, or TV series also. The West Wing, Studio 60, On the Sunset Strip, The Newsroom. Movies such as A Few Good Men, The American President, Charlie Wilson's War, The Social Network, Moneyball, and Steve Jobs. He's penned every single one of those, as a matter of fact. The man is... Well, he's very. What I understand of him is he's very ego driven. He holds himself. He kind of comes off as kind of a. But I will say that he definitely has very high credentials, I would say. I've definitely watched majority of those movies. The Social Network, it was good. I think it was kind of overrated, but I love A Few Good Men. Movies like that. I will say that Moneyball was excellent. I love The American President. That's one for you 90s folks out there like me who enjoy that. It was a Michael Douglas film, but besides the point though. Now, this past week at Cinemacon, Aaron Sorkin was actually, and this is per comicbook.com, Aaron Sorkin was actually on the red carpet there, and he was actually saying that he has met with both DC and Marvel. Now, he quoted saying, I happen to have meetings coming up with both DC and Marvel. I have to go into these meetings and tell them as respectfully as I can that I've never read a comic book. It's not that I don't like them, it's just that I've never been exposed to one. So I'm hoping that somewhere in their library is a comic book character that I'm going to love, and I'm going to want to go back and start reading from the first issue. So let's look at it this way. We'll look at it two ways. One, you have an Academy Award winning writer, who's very well credited, who could be possibly writing one DC movie, two DC movies. Who knows? He could be, like you said, he wants something he can sink his teeth into. At the same time, you have a writer who has no background whatsoever with comic books, and that could be if you're a geek, if you're a nerd out there, you're like, I don't want him writing something like this because he's not going to understand the character, and I want a comic book writer to write the movie. And so I can see both sides of that. And let's start with the fact that you have an experienced writer who could be possibly, and I'm always saying possibly because he only had meetings with them. He could be possibly writing for DC. That's awesome. That's really awesome because you want somebody who, like I said, I can keep going back to Batman v Superman. I can keep going back to Suicide Squad. The stories for them were very disappointing, especially Suicide Squad. A movie written by the director within less than 6 weeks. That's disturbing, if anything. Especially, I had a friend come up to me today, and he was like, I watched Suicide Squad. I gotta say, it was kind of different. And I was like, exactly. I was like, you liked the characters, didn't you? He's like, yeah, the characters are great. I loved Will Smith. I loved Margot Robbie. I was like, but the story, it was kind of like Ghostbusters, kind of, meets, kind of, I don't know. It was kind of like a redo of Ghostbusters. He's like, yeah, exactly. I was like, there you go. And unfortunately, that's what we got. And just imagine, though, if we had an experienced writer doing that. You can make the argument, though, that Chris Terrio was an experienced writer, and he did have a hand in Batman v Superman. He possibly did rewrites, whatever it was. And we saw how Batman v Superman was. And for those of you that don't know the name Chris Terrio, once again, he was the one who wrote Argo. I believe he's an Academy Award-winning writer. He's written with Ben Affleck before. He was going to pen the Ben Affleck solo Batman movie, but that movie is getting redone from scratch. Now, to have somebody we'll look at the other side, to have somebody who's inexperienced or has no idea whatsoever about comic book movies, that could be not so good, because it might not be so good. And the only reason I would say for that is because, well, he's coming in with no idea whatsoever what's going on with these characters, and maybe he's not going to have an understanding of them. At the same time, though, it seems like this guy, when he writes, he really does have an understanding. It sounds like he's willing to do the research, and he's not going to do just a movie just because he has to, just for the paycheck. If you notice the trend with these movies, these are not movies that just come out like every 1-2 years or so. They come out almost practically every 3 to 4 years or so. I know the gap between Moneyball and Steve Jobs was a little ways away anyway. I will say that, if he finds the character that, if somebody came out and said, if there was a news story tomorrow that said that Aaron Sorkin is going to be fell in love with the Batman character, he's going to be writing the script for the Batman, then shut up and take my money right now, because, that would be great, because I know that he's going to go back and do the background. And, well, from the sound of it anyway, that he's going to do his homework, and then, he's going to possibly bring a new perspective of Batman, and he brings the outsider perspective, which could be a good thing also. I will say that, with Aaron Sorkin, or just any writer that's coming out that has no background in, writing a comic book movie, if you look at Nolan, you look at a writer like even Tim Burton. Tim Burton didn't write the script, okay, so that's a bad example. Sam Hamm wrote the script for that. I'm not too sure about Sam Hamm's background with that, but as far as I know, he didn't actually have any like comic book credentials in there. He was just writing a script for a movie, and he wrote an excellent Batman film. Actually, 2 of them, as a matter of fact, Batman and Batman Returns. If you look at somebody who wrote was it Akivia Goldsman, I believe, is the writer of Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. A writer, I think he put out the 2 worst Batman films we've ever had. And, maybe he was a comic book fan. Doesn't mean that those movies were any better because of that. You have a comic book fan like Zack Snyder. Snyder is a diehard comic book fan, probably most than majority of all of us. And we saw what happened with movies like Batman v Superman. He focused more on the visuals, and the story kind of lacked, or not kind of, it really lacked. Writers like Christopher Nolan, David S. Goyer, and David S. Goyer, he wrote the Blade movies, all 3 of them, and he directed one, the last one, and it didn't do so well. It really wasn't well received. It was okay. I can go back and watch it, but he did write the whole Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan. Goyer has that background with comic books. Nolan, not so much. I think Nolan is, to my understanding, he was a fan of Batman, but he didn't. I think he probably went back and kind of made up his own Batman universe. And then he had his help with his brother, Jenner Nolan, help writing with that. So if you're having an outsider come in and kind of lend a hand, or just kind of put a new, fresh perspective on that, I'm all for it. I truly am all for that. So, like I said, if the guy is really arrogant, and I think from what I've seen, interviews and so forth, he might be. I'm not too worried about that, but I do want to see somebody who can write a really good script, or an excellent script. And if he ends up signing with DCEU and he's able to pen a Batman script, then, like I said, shut up and take my money. I'm all for it. So once again, let me know what you think. All right, so let's move on here. So usually I don't put birthdays front and center. I've done that for certain actors, say Sean Connery and so forth. But a big birthday I definitely want to talk about this week is the one, Mr. Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger celebrates his birthday. Actually, at the time of recording, it'll be tomorrow, Tuesday, April 4th. He would have turned 38 years old. We all know him as the Joker, maybe the definitive Joker. I'll get into that in a second, but it's actually been 9 years since he's passed. Unfortunately, he died in January 2008. He had an accidental overdose of prescription drugs. But let's not remember him for that. Let's remember him for being the Joker. And that's what I really want to focus on tonight, is remembering Heath Ledger's Joker. If you heard the clip at the beginning of the show, I inserted the interrogation scene in there. Like I mentioned before, multiple times. One of my favorite scenes of Heath Ledger's Joker is just him locked in there with Commissioner Gordon. Evening, Commissioner. Does it depress you just to know how alone you really are? Things like that. His scenes with Christian Bale in that, when Bale just all of a sudden pops up, he says, never start with the head. The victim gets all kind of dizzy and fuzzy. And see, I wanted to see what you do. And you didn't disappoint. Why do you want to kill me? Kill you? I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you? No, you complete me. Guys, I know that we all have our thoughts about, whether The Dark Knight is the best Batman movie. But if we're going to make an argument, and I can make this argument coming from somebody who grew up with Jack Nicholson's Joker, I will say that Heath Ledger, it just stepped it up even, just everything about that Heath Ledger Joker, the makeup that he himself created, him locking himself up, in an apartment, this is the part that drove him to his death, unfortunately. But he is almost, I would say, not almost, Heath Ledger, mark my words, is the definitive villain of all villains. He kicks Darth Vader's ass. He kicks anybody's ass. He really does. And it's just the performance that this guy was able to do. Okay, he didn't need CGI, anything like that. He didn't need to wear a mask. Yeah, you can say the makeup is his sort of mask. I mean, actually, you do see one scene without his makeup, but when the guy was on screen, every single part of The Dark Knight, from the very beginning of, him just in the bank sequence in there, no, I killed the bus driver. I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger. All those kind of, his deliveries with the scenes, how he just kind of, he kind of like, I don't want to say he limped in there, but he kind of had that, like that. A freak, you see a guy like me. A freak, a guy like me. I know why you choose to have your group therapy sessions in the middle of the day. It's because the Batman has shown Gotham your true colors. And what happened? Did your balls drop off? Things like, I can't get enough of it. I really can't. And, that's what makes to me that's all those lines, or every single one of his scenes is what makes The Dark Knight one of my favorite Batman film. It was so ironic is that it overshadowed Christian Bale's performance, which was an amazing performance in there, and same with Aaron Eckhart's performance in there. And everybody didn't want Heath Ledger to be Joker, and I would probably say that if I look back, I'm like, the guy who did Brokeback Mountain, the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You, he's gonna play Joker? Come on, Jack Nicholson's Joker. He was my favorite Joker. I mean, really, because he was the only Joker we really had, aside from Mark Hamill, who did the animated series, who I would also say is one of the best Jokers. But looking back at Heath Ledger, I will say that we have to really respect the past and embrace the future, but looking back at the performance that Heath Ledger gave, I mean, it's just everything about that. Him dressing up in the nurse costume. I know I'm probably describing every single Heath Ledger scene, but it's just that everything in there was so good. Be like, hi, the scenes with him, it's not about money, it's about sending a message. Everything burns, everything that he's trying to do with Batman. He's trying to break Batman, and, he's trying to do it more, I would say, psychologically in a way, to the point where, okay, you know who's going to win in a fight between Batman and Joker. Obviously, Batman's going to win. Joker wasn't like the most physical kind of villain ever, but he was always, as the new phrase is, 10 steps ahead. He's always thinking ahead. And when it came to this, you know, every time, you know, Batman thought that he was on the tail of the Joker, you know, when he's trying to, you know, with the whole hospital, when you know, he says he's going to blow up a hospital, and Batman's trying to figure out what's going on. And he still had no idea. He's like, he had no idea what he was going to be doing, plotting Harvey Dent to turn into a villain, the White Knight turning into a villain. I mean, it's just, wow, what he was able to do. And, you know, he was a terrorist. He truly was a terrorist. And everything he did with that character, just, you know, unfortunately for Jared Leto, it was very hard shoes to fill. We haven't seen enough of Jared Leto's Joker, but, you know, it just seems like the thing now is, or it just became a trend to be like a villain for Heath Ledger, just like Heath Ledger's Joker. You see that in other movies. You see that and it doesn't have to be comic book movies, but you also see that in the TV series. Everybody does like the camera on themselves, you know, kind of like when he was holding the Batman impersonator hostage and so forth. You know, things like that. And, you know, and actually that scene alone still scares the living S out of me, just because, you know, he's like, "Are you the real Batman? Then why do you dress up as him?" You know, he's like, "Because Batman's a symbol that we don't have to be afraid of people like you." "Yes, you do, Brian. You really do. Look at me. Look at me." Things like that. I was like, geez. I mean, I go from like, I mean, I'm just so glued to the TV when I'm watching that, and I'm just like, wow, this guy it just makes me just shiver every time I hear the delivery of those lines. So, you know, I just want to say that, you know, rest in peace, Heath Ledger. I know that we talked about it before on the show. I think he died. I don't exactly remember, but besides the point, if you're a James Bond fan and if you haven't watched The Dark Knight, or even if you're a Batman fan and you haven't watched The Dark Knight, definitely go watch this movie. This is one of the best performances of a villain you will ever see, not just of Batman, in general. And I think that, you know, I'm not saying it gets forgotten, but I want to make sure that it doesn't get forgotten. So that's kind of why I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about him tonight. And before I forget, I also wanted to mention that Spike TV, I talked about this on the last show, that they are going to be doing a documentary series on him. It's entitled I Am Heath Ledger. It'll air on the network in May. It's kind of a documentary series. And usually what they do is they do interviews with people that are close to him, that were close to him. New insights could potentially be shared for the first time. So like I said, it's going to be airing in May. But once again, happy birthday, Heath Ledger. Rest in peace, sir. All right, so let's move on here to the last of the main event. And I say the last of the main event because March went by pretty quick. And the reason for me it went by pretty quick, because I kept myself pretty busy with something called the Batman vs. Bond March Madness Tournament 2017. And yeah, for those of you that did follow this or didn't follow it, unfortunately, you missed out, because it was a lot of fun. I know a lot of people online had fun with this. You know, recap, pretty much what it was is it was not a sports related bracket challenge. This was nothing but Batman versus James Bond movies. It's everything this show stands for. And, you know, the fans came out, they voted. If you were voting, you voted on Twitter, you gave your opinion on Instagram why it was, and why your favorite Batman movie should have won, and favorite James Bond movie, what happened, why there were so many different upsets, which kind of came as a surprise to me even. You know, but the winner has been decided. It was decided not too long before recording. So let's go do a recap real quick of the semifinal rounds. You know, when we last left off, you know, we were going into the semifinal rounds. As I mentioned, it was going to be The Dark Knight versus The Dark Knight Rises. And, you know, not a surprise by any stretch of the means. The Dark Knight came in winning at 80% to 20% as The Dark Knight Rises lost. You know, like I said, Dark Knight Rises, I will be one of the top people to say why The Dark Knight Rises is such a great movie, despite some of the, I will say some of the flaws that it has about, just little things. But besides the point, though, I will say that I was really excited The Dark Knight won, obviously because I'm a fan of Heath Ledger's Joker and just everything about that, the whole story, whatever have you, the action sequences in there and so forth. So another semifinalist in here. And this one, it had me thinking, but I was like, okay, well, Bond fans, if you're going to really show your support, you have to show your support for this movie. And it was Casino Royale versus Batman 1989. Now, we all know that I love Batman 1989, but I love Casino Royale even more. I really do. And that's probably the first time I've ever said that before in a sentence. And, well, it's recorded now, so I really can't take that back until next time we do this challenge. And I couldn't even vote in this challenge. It's what was so funny about this, but Casino Royale ended up winning 66% to 34%. Batman 1989 lost. And that's what brought us to the grand finale, the finals, Casino Royale versus The Dark Knight. Now, before we announce the winner, and the winner's already been announced if you didn't know that, if you don't follow me on social media, it's at Batman vs. Bond on all the social media networks. But, going into this, I would say, okay, well, like it or not, there are more Batman fans out there, and The Dark Knight is considered, to many, probably one of the best comic book movies ever, maybe one of your favorite movies ever in general. Casino Royale is considered one of the favorite James Bond movies. I know On Her Majesty's Secret Service is up there. Casino Royale, it's just everything that a Bond fan wants, and it's not just for Bond fans. It's just I've never heard anybody say anything bad about Casino Royale. It's just was that well received because it was a fresh take on James Bond. It broke him down to just no gadgets, not even a Q or money penny in there, and it's just his first mission as a 00 agent. We see his heartbroken in that. Spoiler alert. But there's so many good things we could say about Casino Royale. So this is, when I started the tournament, I'm like, well, I really was hoping The Dark Knight would be in the finals. Trust me, it was not rigged. I promise you it was not rigged. You do not need to demand a recount for this. Casino Royale, I was thinking, well, there's a lot of love out there for Casino Royale, and even Batman fans would agree that Casino Royale is just that good of a James Bond movie, or in general, or just a movie. And, unfortunately, Casino Royale didn't get as much support as it needed to win. The Dark Knight did win at 65% to 35%. I did the final round on Saturday night, and boy, did we get a lot of votes for this. And thank you for everybody who did vote for this. Like I said, better luck next time, old boy. Unfortunately, Casino Royale lost, and it just shows you that, yeah, there are more Batman fans out there, but maybe this can really be debated. This is one to be debated. I want to have some people talk about this, why you think The Dark Knight is a better movie than Casino Royale, besides the obvious. I mean, they're both well scripted, both well acted. Maybe The Dark Knight has the upper edge, or I have no doubt that The Dark Knight has the upper edge, not just because of Heath Ledger, but I think in general the performances that were in there. Casino Royale, I don't think it would reach like that Oscar caliber or just those memorable performances. I mean, obviously, Daniel Craig did such a great job as James Bond in his first outing. Mads Mikkelsen as Le Chiffre, excellent villain. Judi Dench as Q, Eva Green, so hot. As Vesper Lynn. But I will say that I think it's a fair choice. I think it was the right decision that Dark Knight beat Casino Royale out. But don't worry, there will be more of this to come because it seemed to be very well received. So I am, I said I had a special announcement, and I am working on this as we speak, and I'm going to try to get this going by the end of the week. It's one of those weeks, but I will find time to do this in my spare time. Obviously not on the company time, but there is a villains tournament that I am working on. Shout out to Universal Exports London for giving me this idea. I actually kind of thought about it before, but yeah, there will be a villains tournament that will be happening hopefully by the end of the week. I got to put this together, how I want to work this. If you have thoughts, send me a message at Batman vs. Bond. Let me know what you think. But in the meantime, stay tuned for more announcements on that. But yes, there will be a villains tournament in the works, and more to come on that. I'm really excited about this, because who doesn't love a villain? The villain is, if it wasn't for the villain, then what would the good guy be doing? What would Bond or Batman be doing? Sitting at home, washing his tights, cleaning his Walther. That's right. So moving on here to the final segment, birthdays. Birthdays this week, some really interesting ones this week. Wayne Newton celebrates a birthday. He actually celebrated a birthday at the time of recording. Happy birthday, sir. He celebrates a birthday on April 3rd. He played Professor Joe Butcher in License to Kill. All I will say about Wayne Newton is this: bless your heart, sir. Monty Norman celebrates a birthday on April 4th. For those of you that don't know that name, once again, shame on you. That's okay. But we were talking about music a couple episodes ago on Beat of the Bat, with Pat Evans. And, if there's ever a theme that's more iconic than, say, the Batman, Batman, it's that's right. It's a really bad version, my version of that. But you all know how it goes, the James Bond theme, and he is the creator or writer of the James Bond theme. Not many movies, or I would say not many franchises get to keep a theme for so long, but a movie theme that was created in 1962 that is still being used all the way up until at least 2015. I'm sure it'll be continued to be used, but it's something about that Bond theme. Everybody knows this Bond theme, and it's just, I don't think maybe he knew what he was coming up with at the time. I think it is a work of art, and it's still my favorite theme. It's I love the Batman themes, all the different iterations we've had of that, but I think the James Bond theme, there's so many different versions of it, and it's been remixed by Moby, it's been remixed by Oakenfold, it's been redone by David Arnold, by Thomas Newman, Bill Conti, Michael Kamen, I'm missing a whole, Marvin Hamlish, John Barry, so many people, but what's so great is that they've chosen to continue with that theme, and like I said, I believe it will continue. So happy birthday, sir. Pedro Armendáriz Jr. celebrates a birthday on April 6th. He played President Hector Lopez in License to Kill. He had a really quick cameo in there, but for those of you that haven't seen that movie, definitely check that out. He was pretty much a president that was being paid off by Sanchez, by Robert Davies' villain Sanchez, and he was kind of, you'll look the part, but you're going to be a puppet, and I'm going to control you. But so it was kind of an interesting aspect on that. So happy birthday, sir. Billy D. Williams celebrates a birthday on April 6th. That's right. Who doesn't love Billy D. Williams? And Billy D. Williams is what could have been seeing him. We got to see him as Harvey Dent. That's right. He played Harvey Dent in Tim Burton's Batman 1989. We're working on it. I need more help now. Things like that, it's just something about his, citizens of Gotham. I'm a man of few words, but those words will count, and so will my actions. I love those little quotes like that. I always remember those. But, he was always just Billy D. Williams. And yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan, you know where I'm going with this is, he's got that smoothness to him. I guess that's the way to describe it. He's just so cool and composed. But if we would have ever seen a take of him as Two-Face, that would have been really interesting. I know that was always in talks for Batman Returns, but it never ended up happening. Technically, we did get that in the Lego Batman movie. I know somebody will say that. So he did voice Two-Face in the Lego Batman movie, and it was more kind of for fun, and that's exactly what the Lego Batman movie was. But I will say that, I really did enjoy his take as Harvey Dent, but seeing him as Two-Face would have been even scarier. So, happy birthday, sir. So, that wraps it up for this episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. Please subscribe on Spreaker and iTunes, rate it 5 stars, and leave a nice review for me on there. Thank you. I'd very much appreciate it. The biggest thing I always ask is that you share the show with your friends. And as I always mention, follow me on all the various social media networks, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Batman vs. Bond. Find the show on BatmanVSBond.com and on the BS Podcast Network. And be sure to check out all the other great programming on there, including Science Faction Podcast, Geek Dig Podcast, and Unpopular Culture Podcast. Like James Bond, I will return. Until next time, I'm Brian Thomas. Thanks for listening and have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
The preceding podcast is part of the BS Podcast Network. Visit bspodcastnetwork.com for more shows just like this one, and perhaps a few that are just a little bit better.